Kentucky State Police are refusing to investigate the death of a 19-year-old girl after a police officer in Boone County shot her when she allegedly tried to get away. Now, we have video of the situation, but before we get to that, let me explain to you what happened. It's dash cam footage, and the sound was not working for the technology, so you can't really hear anything. And unfortunately, the girl drives out of the frame, but you should pay attention to her driving away, how she's trying to get away from the cop. And afterwards, you will see people coming into the frame and they look distressed. It's because the cop had already shot her, and those were the passengers in the car that had witnessed everything. Now, the reason why the cop says that he shot her, and the cop's name is Tyler Brockman, is because he said that he was trying to stop her. She tried to get away. He thought that maybe she was under the influence, and he was worried that she was trying to run over him. So at that point, he fired 4 rounds. 3 of them hit her, 2 in the chest, 1 in the arm, and then she died. Now, we have the surveillance footage for you. Let's take a look. So as you can see, she just kind of gets away. And then you don't see anything in the frame for quite some time, and then you see the passengers come out with their hands up. They look distressed. One of them is sitting there on the ground.
Those were the passengers, Anna, in her vehicle. In her car. So he fired 4 shots into a vehicle with at least 2, if not 3 passengers in that car.
There were a total of 3 passengers.
I read the story. I missed that part of it. Wow, that was a dramatic decision by a police officer. And he said that he had his hand on he was in front of the car, and it was coming at him, and he thought that was the only way to defend himself. And I don't begrudge a police officer in general, if the car is about to impale him, his right to fire into that car to protect himself.
So a vehicle is considered a deadly weapon.
Sure.
So in this instance, if she was in fact trying to run him over, it's considered assault with a deadly weapon or attempted murder with a deadly weapon. But in this case, the story is sketchy because there are authorities that are refusing to lead the investigation. So I should say that the authorities are saying, hey, we will aid in an investigation should an investigation come up, but specifically the Kentucky State Police say, we don't want to be the ones that lead the investigation. Now let me give you the reason why. They said that too much time had passed from the moment that the incident occurred to when it was brought to their attention, and the grand total of days, no, not days, the grand total of hours was 125. They mentioned, so a few days did pass by, but to them, it's like, let's mention 125 hours to make it seem like a big deal. So wait, you're saying that after 125 hours, you're gonna refuse to lead an investigation where a 19-year-old is shot and killed by a cop?
And just out of frame of the video camera, there's no audio, I got it. It may be a 100% tragedy and a legitimate shoot, and a woman who was out of control and unstable and risked the life of a police officer. And the Boone County Sheriff asked the Kentucky State Police to do this investigation, and the Kentucky State Police come back and say it's been 125 hours, which is as weird a statement as I've ever heard from cops. They don't say that's 5 days and 5 hours. They don't say it's been 5 days. They don't say nearly a week. It's been 125 hours. We don't talk like that in this country.
122, we would have done it.
So I'm already I don't know what's going on. I don't know whether the sheriff knew that after 5 days, in some weird Kentucky law that's not in these stories, and I looked, that's why the Kentucky State Police was duty bound to turn it down because of some strange Kentucky law, and so the sheriff can protect his guy. But because the sheriff made a big thing hey, I don't want, because obviously the sheriff's department would investigate the shooting. It happened in their jurisdiction, it's their cop, but they don't want any appearance that they're looking out for their own, so they asked the state police to do it. I think it's safe to say that we need some authority figure to come in and do this investigation. I don't know, I asked in the meeting if this woman was black. She wasn't, because then maybe we could at least get the FBI involved, because it'd be a civil rights investigation. Let's find some way to have the FBI come in here and just do an investigation, and they may well clear this cop, but somebody who's not them, not Boone County, needs to run this investigation.
And I think, I'm sorry, one second, I just want to clarify one thing. It's important to mention that no one is saying that the cop is 100% guilty. You just need to have an investigation in a case where a 19-year-old is shot and killed.
Unarmed 19-year-old.
An unarmed 19-year-old who also has 3 other passengers in the vehicle. And look, there was underage drinking happening in the area. There was a party with underage drinking, and so that's why he was investigating the area.
I'm sure she was drunk.
And she has a history of driving drunk. I looked into that. A year ago, ago, she was arrested for driving drunk. She had a passenger in the vehicle that had 2 arrest warrants. So it's understandable that the cop is absolutely right, but there needs to be an investigation. Here's what is happening before you guys chime in. This case is going to go to the county attorney. Her name is Linda Talley Smith. She will decide whether or not this goes to a grand jury. The officer, Officer Brock, has been placed on administrative leave as they decide what they're going to do with this case.
It's just, let me clarify what Anna said. The officer is absolutely right in investigating this in the first place and stopping her and seeing what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Why is it not the case that in every time an unarmed person is killed by a police officer, given the history of police violence in this country, there's not an independent investigation? Why is that not the law? We can't bust out this 125-hour rule.
Right.
That just sounds crazy. It's almost, there's the hubris of it. I'm sorry, 125 hours gone by. We can't do anything about this. It's crazy.
It's absurd. And
policy and current protocol. That's what that was the reason for turning them down to the Kentucky State Police.
It's crazy.
Yeah, when people start talking about current protocol, you know that some people are, moving things around to make sure that you don't investigate something. Look, Dennis makes another good point here, which is that investigating cops has not had a rich history of success in this country. So perhaps we should get independent boards to investigate in situations like this. But of course, that's in fact the reason why we don't have that, because cops are worried that they will be independent and then they will find them, guilty or negligent far too often, and that's why they resist that greatly. But you can't have friends investigating one another, and you can't have colleagues investigating one another like that. And we've seen the blue line over and over again. In this case, it's hard to judge. To me, the idea that he had his hand on the hood and she was speeding towards him and he had time to draw the weapon and fire and kill her, I can't understand how he's speeding towards her if he has the hand on the car.
How is there not an investigation when a cop fires into a car that has 3 other people in it? And again, I'm not saying that but it's just like, you investigate it and the cop knows, wow, I'm out for 2 weeks while they investigate this, because of course it should be investigated. And presumably the witnesses, if he had nothing, were like, she was driving at him. I wish he hadn't shot her, but he was,
So really quick, he had alleged that she hit him with the vehicle, right? Which is why he was like, okay, I'm in danger now. I gotta fire. Well, one of the witnesses said Brockman was not struck, but instead jumped out onto the hood. Right. So look, that's what a witness is saying. It's he said, she said at this point. But again, it goes back to the fact that there were witnesses there. An investigation should take place. It's not a difficult thing to do.
Right at the beginning of that video, you see him standing on the side, like putting a flashlight into the driver's side. So how fast could the driver have been going if the officer got in front, either in front of the car or then jumped on the hood of the car to fire through, what the report says, through the windshield, right? Not through the passenger side car. Not that fast, I don't think.
And if a car's moving, I'm not sure, I don't know, again, I don't know what protocol, don't get in front of it. Also, like, don't, like,
how about that?
I don't know. Look, man, I don't know. I wasn't there, this cop probably feared for his life in some way, but some law enforcement agency needs to investigate it. And can I mention this one thing, because I think this is interesting. This is in USA, in the Cincinnati Enquirer. I think that's the paper there. The family, the woman's name's Ramsey, right? And Ramsey family they've hired a lawyer named Gary Frank. And he is the son-in-law of a guy named Simon Lease, who was a prosecutor, a judge, and a sheriff in Hamilton County for 40 years, retiring in 2012. So I like that. They have a lawyer who knows how things work and may be able to get some cooperation, and presuming that he's a competent lawyer, like they're at least patched in, and they referred all questions to him, like they're not, like they, I'm sure, want this investigated too.
One last thing, the trail has grown cold. I mean, this is not someone you're looking for a suspect out, that's,
right.
But the trail still grows cold in the sense that he had ample opportunity to set his story, make sure it jives with everything else. I mean, that's why Dennis's point is so good. You need someone independent investigating so that they can ask him the tough questions immediately, instead of now if they do an investigation, boy, he has had a chance to go through that and lock it down to the best possible scenario for himself.
Initially,
an opportunity they would never give anyone who isn't a cop.
I read a lot of detective fiction. I watch a lot of cop shows, so I was already thinking, like, where are those shell casings? Right.
Yeah.
But of course, like, then it occurs to me that all of this is irrelevant because he had to have shot through the front window.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he has no story
Right.
whatsoever. So I don't know, man. A lot of coincidences that just happened out of frame, and the audio doesn't work, and
audio doesn't work.
nobody can investigate it. A lot of things feel wrong about this.